So hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the for IS, the Hindu Analysis series. And today, as you know, the date is 19th of July and we are starting with the front page as usual. I do this because some of you might be the beginners starting that with the reading newspapers. So therefore, it becomes important that what to exactly read and what to leave. Fine, because not whole of the newspaper is important. Remember, out of 20-22 pages, just 4 to 5 pages are important for us as far as exam exam is concerned. Okay, so please do not waste time unnecessarily on the pages of masala kind of news, especially politics related. So let us see what is more important from today's front page. Okay. So opposition's Team India to take on NDA in Lok Sabha poll. Okay, fine. That's not that important. Just have the basic idea that what's going on. Fine. That's it. Not to go in detail because this is purely politics. So on the one hand, you have you have this opposition teaming up as India, naming their coalition as India to take on the NDA, that is this led by BJP. So coalitions of negativity never successful. So this counter and this counter by of course the NDA led by Prime Minister. Okay, so complete politics here. We can simply skip former Kerala CM Mohan Chandni no more. So he passed away yesterday. Yamuna received below danger mark in Delhi. So you see nothing important as such from this page. Fine. Then comes your local, since this is the Hindu edition of Delhi edition. So that's why you have local news related to Delhi. So if you are from Delhi, you should be aware of what's going on around you, but not for other people. There are those who are not from Delhi per se. And then you have states here and basically the politics. So you can simply skip these pages. Okay. So after first page, where you find some few things important there, though I didn't find anything important today, but first page gives us an idea of what exactly to read and what would be covered in the further pages. Fine. So as far as this, okay. So this could be important from prelims exam, for the prelims exam especially, a fascinating fusion of rock art and culture in Andhra Pradesh, Rudragiri. Fine. Okay, so the Rudragiri hillock located in the village of this in Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh boasts a celebrated historical past and remarkable archaeological monuments. Fine. Drawing depicts the intense battle between Vanara brothers, Vali and Sugriva. Fine, जिन्होंने आपने से रामायण देखी होगी, उनको पता होगा कि वाली सुग्रीव दो ब्रदर्स थे, ठीक है? This site enables a fascinating combination of prehistoric. So remember, this is a prehistoric rock paintings. UPSC very much like to ask questions related to such things. So this is a prehistoric rock paintings used to paint over the rocks like this from the Mesolithic period and exquisite artwork from the Kaktiya dynasty. So these three lines very important because here three things you find. First is these paintings, these rock paintings are of prehistoric times. Secondly, these are the Mesolithic period, fine. And thirdly, these are the artwork from the Kaktiya dynasty. Remember, in history you study about this dynasty in particular. So three things, three important facts, three statements which UPSC can frame in the form of statements. Three statements you might be asked to choose which one is correct or incorrect. Fine. Archaeologists of the Temple Survey Project, Southern Region and the Archaeological Survey of India shared this discovery with the Hindu, shedding light on the significance of this hidden gem. Rudragiri, nestled amidst the eastern Ghats, features 5 naturally formed rock shelters and its foothills facing westward. So Rudragiri features not just one but remember 5 naturally formed rock shelters. Another important point, another important fact. These shelters served as a living quarters for people during the Mesolithic age around 5000 BC and they bear witness to the luminous rock paintings of that era. So of course we are talking about the era related to the Mesolithic age, right? 5000 BC. Interestingly, two natural caves, another two natural caves we have here at the southern end of the hillock also exhibit exceptional murals. Murals are basically the smaller paintings, carvings over, let us say, rock or some special even on temples. You see even murals painting are there on the Taj Mahal as well. Fine. So from the renowned Kaktiya kingdom. So mural painting, this over there in the Kaktiya dynasty during the Kaktiya kingdom. So of course you can have another important fact from this: artistic brilliance. These caves showcase the artistic brilliance of the Kaktiya period, Kaktiya dynasty. While many have suffered damage over time to exposure to the elements, some stages and architects have managed to survive the paintings adorned with variety of colors derived from white kaolin and different pigments depict captivating scenes from the epic Ramayana. Despite the impact of nature's wrath, fragments of these paintings offer valuable insights into their creation during the 13th century AD. The first cave, starting from the southern end of the hillock, that is Udagiri, presents a narrative mural portraying intense battle between the Bandra brothers Bali and Sugriva. So this is again a mural portrait, remember. In the middle cave, so we have the first cave, the middle cave, a grand stage of Hanuman accompanied by sacred symbols of the conch, that is Shankha, and the fire altar, that is Yagnapedi, captures visitors' attention. So in the first cave, you have the pictures of mural paintings of, in fact, the Bali and Sugriv, the two Bandra brothers. In the middle cave, you find a picture of the sketch of Hanuman, and Hanuman is depicted carrying the Sanjeevani hill, Sanjeevani Buddhi, in his hand, symbolizing his mission to save Lakshmana's life. Okay. The third cave houses the prehistoric rock paintings from the Mesolithic era. So we have first cave, second to the middle cave, and then the third cave. So three caves. Interestingly, the Kaktiya artist chose the same rock shelter to superimpose the elegant figure of Hanuman, who is portrayed in unique Anjali posture, folding his hands in a divine offering. Fine. So Anjali posture is nothing when you fold your hand like this. Okay. In a divine offering, basically. Remarkably, the Ramayana figure neither overshadows the Mesolithic drawings nor diminishes their scenic beauty. So this is those smaller one, but very very important as far as the prelims exam is concerned, because such kind of things UPSC does ask. Fine. So keep in mind this thing. Okay. As usually, majority of the times you find this page is covering only politics, but at times you may also find such kind of miscellaneous facts. So you just need not to just shift from first page to editorial. At least you have a cursory look, quick glance at the subsequent pages in between as well. Fine, because this is what we have found, and this is an important thing. Okay, next is finally we have done on the most important page, and that is editorial. And first editorial, first minute article over this is related to India, France, and what keeps their ties taking. So we have discussed, about the India-France article, this relation and all. Here also, there is not much. There is not something which is, very different from whatever we have discussed till now. But again, a miscellaneous kind of facts. So let us have a quick glance at this as well, because majority of the things covered here are those which, sets of facts which we have already discussed. Fine. So you know that our friend used to visit France, and after that he also went to UAE as well. So in 1998, what happened in India proved France in what should have been a tough spot. So 1988, Pokhran 2, when we tested our nuclear, this bomb. So just a few months after French President Jacques Chirac had been the chief guest at the Republic Day parade in Delhi, and Prime Minister Rajiv Gujral signed India's first ever strategic partnership agreement with him. So remember, India signed first strategic partnership with France under the prime ministership of I.K. Gujarat. Okay, so keep this fact in mind. Newly elected Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee announced that the nuclear test had been conducted in Pokhran, that is Pokhran 2 of course, after 1974, in May. In the United Nations Security Council, French diplomats joined the P5. P5 are the permanent 5 members of the United Nations Security Council, and these 5 members are, I hope you can name them, US, UK, then France, then of course Russia, and China. These are the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and UNSC is known the most powerful body of the United Nations. Remember, because this, and what is the special thing or peculiar thing about this P5 membership is that these 5 members hold veto power. Either of them, if veto over such, let us say, any kind of decision, then of course that decision declared to be null and void, and further the countries cannot proceed over that. Okay, so this is why these 5 members are very, or this group or body itself is the most powerful body of the United Nations, especially with respect to the United Nations Security Council. So of course it takes care of the security all over the world. Okay. But of course, it has also been mired in politics, because you see the 5 members are not in good terms with each other. You see the US and China not very good, relation. So far, Russia, and because of Russia-Ukraine conflict, of course, even Russia is not in good terms, or US and Russia doesn't share the good bond at the present. Again, even UK is not at good terms with Russia today. Fine. So you see that even these 5 members are not at good terms with themselves. Okay, so that's how the politics goes on. Okay, so even India time and again emphasizes on becoming the member of this, or India time and again says that even India should be granted the prime this permanent member, and it should be P6 and P7, because even 3 prospective candidates, like we have Germany, we have Japan, we have India. Fine. So this grouping of 3 countries, basically they aim to, or time and again they try to get the permanent seat in this most powerful body called the National Security Council. But remember, these 5 members plus 10 members from across the continents, they get elected for 2 years, and India had been the member in 2021 and 22 for the 2 years. Fine. The member of this non-permanent member of UNSC, remember. So 5 permanent plus 10 non-permanent. So these together form the 5 members, 15 members of the United Nations Security Council. Fine. But this 10 keeps on changing after 2 years, because they are elected based through the election mechanism. Okay, so the 5 countries in condemning the test but did not join. So remember, French diplomat do join P5 is permanent 5 members in condemning the India's Pokhran 2 of 1998, but the catch is France did not join along with the United Kingdom and Russia. Even Russia and UK did not join US and China on condemning what? The Pokhran 2. Okay? The United States did move to impose sanctions on India, nor did France scrap the strategic partnership agreement, which concluded just a few months before this Pokhran 2. So this shows that how robust our relations are, fine, not being influenced by such events, fine. Okay. The philosophy. So what is exactly the philosophy behind this relationship between India and France? Throughout their relationship, New Delhi and Paris have built a tradition of joining each other's National Day parades. National Day, fine. Like 26th of January. So most of the time you find that the chief guest, majority of the times, French either Prime Minister or French President, they are generally being the chief guest for the 26th of January Republic Day celebration in India. And similarly, Prime Minister happened to, became the second Prime Minister, of course, after Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, who joined the National Day of France on 13th of July. So Chirac himself was guest at India's Republic Day twice. His first appearance was in 1976 and Valéry Giscard d'Estaing in 1980. Nicolas Sarkozy, 2008, Franco Escalante 2016 and have been guest since. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh 2009 and now Prime Minister Modi were invited to the Bastille Day parade. Bastille Day is basically the national day of France. Like we have this basic course obviously parade and all. So in the purchase of defense equipment have often overshadowed the outcome of any of these big visits. Remember, so the writer is saying that what has been the trend in the relation is that purchase of, let us say, this defense equipment has overshadowed the other, such things or such philosophy or overshadowed such kind of visits on the national days by the respective heads of the government of the two countries. It is the underlying philosophy of their engagement that propels India and France eyes forward. Fine. Both countries have held on to three pillars in the relationship. So what are the three pillars of India-France relationship? First is non-interference in each other's international affairs. There will be non-interference in internal matters. That's first pillar. The second is a steadfast belief in strategic autonomy as expressed by President Charles de Gaulle. Fine. Second is steadfast belief in strategic autonomy. Let us say, for example, what does it mean? Strategic autonomy. It simply means that the country would be allowed to take its decision independently without influencing it or pressurizing it. Fine. For example, Russia-Ukraine conflict. So, Western nations alongside US and Germany tried to push India to side with them, but France never pushed India to side with the Western nations, rather to have its own strategic autonomy in choosing its diplomatic, let us say, stand. So of course this is called strategic autonomy. So this is the second pillar of India-French relation. And third is, of course, non-alignment as explained by Prime Minister Nehru, and a refusal to pull the other into its own coalitions and alliances. And third is refusal to pull each other, in own coalitions and alliances. For example, as I gave you the example of Russia-Ukraine conflict, so France never, pressurized or tried to bring India under the coalition of the Western nations in sanctioning Russia. Fine. So this shows that somewhere they respect each other's domain, and alongside that they refuse to pull each other into their own respective coalitions and alliances. Fine. So these are the three most important pillars of Indian-French relation. The awkwardness in 1998, after all, would have been nothing in comparison to Chirac's visit to India in 1976. Not 6 months before that, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had declared the emergency in 1975 and suspended freedom in a move that was criticized across the world. But Chirac, the then president of France, who was not president, sorry, he was the Prime Minister of France, saw no reason to cancel his visit. So even though when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared emergency in India, the then Prime Minister of France, Chirac, the full name is of course. So but Chirac, who was the Prime Minister of France, saw no reason to cancel his visit. So still they visited India. Fine. So this links or underlines the importance actually that France gives to India. Fine, and vice versa as well. In December 1975, France had hosted the Paris Conference on International Economic Cooperation. In 1975, December we are talking about, this emergency was imposed there in India in the month probably June 1975. But now we are talking about 1975 December, just 6 months after that. So in December 1975, France had hosted the Paris Conference on International Economic Cooperation. Okay, that looked at the impact of the global energy crisis on developing countries that rose from US-Arab tensions over the Yom Kippur War. So Yom Kippur War is also known as Arab-Israel War. Fine, Arab-Israel War. What happened during this time? Arabs and Israel were not at good terms. There were, almost 3-4 wars took place during this time, and this Yom Kippur War was basically Israel and Arab Confederation led by Egypt and Syria in particular. Fine. So what would be the fallout of this war or impact of this war on the global energy crisis, particularly on developing countries? So related to this, France called international cooperation or conference called Paris Conference on International Economic Cooperation in December 1975. India was one of the few invitees to the preparatory committee of this, remember, Paris Conference. This again underlines the importance that France attaches to India. When Chirac was in Delhi in January, he praised India's role in bringing disparate global positions together. Space, nuclear energy and defense were even then the cornerstones of the relationship. So what are the cornerstones of India-French relation? Of course, the space, cooperation, nuclear energy and defense. In 2006, Chirac returned to Delhi again to lay the stage for the civil nuclear deal. When India won its waiver at the nuclear supply group, it heard 8. Nuclear supply group, remember, came into being in the year 1974 post Pokhran 1 conducted by India. Fine, Operation Smiling Buddha. Then Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. So first nuclear, test that we conducted in the year 1974 called Operation Smiling Buddha. Fine, or Pokhran 1. So post this, nuclear supply group came into being in the year 1974. It is a 48-member bloc, fine, and the purpose was to basically stop the non-NSG members from proliferating or make such kind of or testing such kind of nuclear assets. So it was basically, you can say, it came into being in the background of this or backdrop of India's first India's Pokhran 1 test conducted in 1974. It was France. It had done much of the heavy lifting for the waiver. So of course, nuclear supply group, India became member in the 2008, and that happened because of the France. Because France did much of the heavy lifting for the waiver for the India and not the US. Remember that India signed its first civil nuclear deal with. Though we signed first civil nuclear deal with 123 civil nuclear agreement 123 famously called between India and US. We signed first civil nuclear deal with US, but it was France which actually did the heavy lifting to get the membership or the waiver from the NSG in 2008. Writing about his decision in his memoir, Chirac, who confessed. So what he said about India, the then Prime Minister of France, he said he confessed a youthful love and passion for India, and a teenage attempt at learning Sanskrit. Said that for him the strategic partnership was a means of establishing the primary role that India, by reason of its history, democratic choices and attachment to secularism, coexistence of different peoples, languages and cultures, was called on to play in the aim of creating a more equally balanced world. So you see all the good things he wrote in his memoir about India. So current, the latest visit by our Prime Minister to Paris last week saw many of the same shades of the partnership. India's Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra pointed out that despite the dramatic visuals of violent protests across France last month over the mistreatment of immigrant communities, our Prime Minister chose to visit France despite such kind of activities. Mr. Modi had not hesitated even once in planning his visit. Neither did France bring up the European Parliament's criticism of India's over the violence in Manipur or allegations of human rights violations. So intolerance towards minorities and curbing civil society freedoms, these were referred to in the resolution adopted by the member of the European Parliament at the plenary session in Strasbourg during July 10-13. On the day 13, Mr. Modi landed in France. So you see that even such kind of things, such kind of elements cannot influence the India's and French relation. Fine. Okay, because France of course is a part of European Union, but and European Union as a group of 27 members has a common parliament called European. This parliament, if this European Parliament actually criticized India for what's going on in Manipur. I hope all of us are aware, and we will discuss it repeatedly. So criticize this, human rights violation and intolerance towards minorities and violence in Manipur. This was criticized by European Union, but though France is a member of this European Union group, European Union, still France did not criticize India, didn't say even a single word about what is happening. Okay, so this shows the robustness of our relation. Ukraine war, because this is one among the three pillars, that is non-interference in each other's internal affairs. And Manipur and whatever happened in France, protest, of course it's internal matters of the two countries. The first pillar is about non-interference in internal affairs. Fine, they are very much holding that principle or pillar. On a major geopolitical stage, this combination of non-interference and non-alliance plays into France's approach towards the Mr. Modi government's position on the war in Ukraine. In March 2022, a month into this war, France co-authored a UN Security Council resolution with Mexico that sought to ensure unhindered humanitarian aid be allowed inside the conflict zone. So you see that in March 2022, and actually this Ukraine and Russia conflict started probably in February 2022. But you see that France alongside Mexico brought a resolution in the United Nations that, especially United Nations Security Council, where it was sought to ensure unhindered humanitarian aid be allowed inside the conflict zone between the two countries. 2 rounds of negotiations followed over this resolution brought by France and Mexico, with hopes in particular of winning over countries such as India given the humanitarian issue. But the resolution was eventually brought to the UN General Assembly when that effort failed. But even though France co-authored this resolution, there was no word of disappointment expressed by Paris when India abstained. Abstain is when you are restraining yourself from taking part or voting on the same issue or resolution. Right? So India actually abstained, not participated over the voting related to this resolution, but still France, there was no word of disappointment expressed by Paris when India abstained. So you see again, this emphasizes the kind of relation we enjoy. Through the war, President Macron's own stance has been more complex than that of other Western countries, and even visited even he made 7 to 8 extended calls he made to Russian President Vladimir Putin and a visit to Moscow in an attempt to talk Mr. Putin out of the war. But more recently, Mr. Macron suggested he would travel to South Africa for the BRICS summit. We have already discussed that the upcoming this year's BRICS summit is going to take place in South Africa. Okay, so Mr. Macron, the French president, has shown interest in joining this summit. For what purpose? So he said. Suggested in fact that he would travel to South Africa for the BRICS summit in August this year, if invited, to make his case there. Case related to what? Of course, the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Understanding and sharing some of the complexity with which, so BRICS, which countries are the member of BRICS? Of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Fine. So therefore, Russia is here, so French president can come and make their statement, whatever he wants to suggest related to this conflict going on between Ukraine and Russia. So New Delhi did not have differences with France over Mr. Macron's visit to China in April this year, including his statement that Europe cannot be a vassal state to the US on its China policy. Now see, since France, doesn't interfere in our these internal matters or our policy matters, our diplomatic matters, therefore we also do not like to, or we should not also interfere in what France is actually doing with China. Is it it? And that's what we have followed till now, this principle. Apart from that, Mr. Macron visited China in April this year, including his statement that Europe cannot be a vassal state. Vassal state is, vassal state is with respect to a powerful state where a state has mutual obligation. Let us say France has having mutual obligation with US to help or to allow its military alongside giving funds in matters of, let us say, if conflict arises somewhere. So this is what actually the vassal state is all about. Vassal state is, you can say, a smaller state or state controlled by a superior state or powerful state. Fine. So even on these two things, on China policy and this statement related to vassal state, we try to remain what? Mute. Instead of saying understanding things. So strategic partnership now. In the strategic sphere, France announced publicly that it disapproves of the North Atlantic NATO Treaty Organization Plus partnership. So we have discussed one day, one of the previous discussion series related to NATO Plus, arrangement, which has been emphasized again by the US that India should be a part of this, but rather France publicly disapproved this NATO Plus partnership plans. That would see the transatlantic alliance building direct ties with Japan, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, and even India. New Delhi had already rejected the plan. Our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has said that NATO is not a template that applies to India. So of course we have cleared our stand. We are not going to join it or become the part of NATO Plus. As a result, despite a push from several countries, the NATO summit in Vilnius. Vilnius is the capital of Lithuania. Remember? The recent, this NATO summit concluded there. This month dropped a mention of the project, this NATO Plus project, of course. The India-France roadmap on the Indo-Pacific released last week further clarifies that neither side is attempting to pull the other into its other regional military coalitions. So again, we try to be neutral with each other, having neutral stance. France was pulled to plans for Quad Plus coalition. First floated in 2020. France wanted to, or was planning for such Quad Plus. Quad will be 4 members: Japan, US, Australia, and India. But even France was interested in joining Quad, and therefore it would have been referred to as a Quad Plus coalition. First floated in 2020, which was more or less dropped. But this enthusiasm on the plan to join Quad was dropped after the US-France rift over the AUKUS. AUKUS is A is Australia, U is UK, and US, of course, US is US, UK, and Australia. So when AUKUS came into being, so of course, this, especially US side and France with respect to AUKUS, because you see France is not part of this AUKUS, therefore even France dropped the idea of joining Quad. Okay? France is also the only country. The Indian Navy has conducted joint patrols with so far, and future plans could involve the use of French international territories in reunion. So remember, France is also the only country. UPSC like to put such kind of statement only. Fine, and we try to think it might be wrong, but nowadays such kind of statements are rather correct. Okay, so need to treat each statement on its merit. France is also the only country that the Indian Navy has conducted joint patrols with so far, and future plans could involve the use of French international territories in reunion. So reunion is an island controlled by France, located in Indian Ocean only, remember. Then another is New Caledonia. New Caledonia is again an archipelago or group of islands, which is again under the control of France. This is located but in Southwest Pacific Ocean. And French Polynesia. So we have Polynesia, Micronesia, such kind of islands again, and this Polynesia too is in the Pacific Ocean, controlled under the domain of France. Okay, so these are the 3 islands under the control of France, and even India's Andaman Islands for port cost and recognize. Recognize is something where military actually, let us say Indian Army, somewhere try to locate the enemy positions or the posts. Fine. And alongside that, take the or make the further strategic, positions, you can say, or take the further strategic steps in order to counter the enemy. Fine. So this is called reconnaissance, kind of surveillance by both navies on bilateral basis. So these are the 4 island groups where these 2 navy can further have bilateral this patrolling and all. While India ties with each of the P5 I already told you, countries is unique. The feature that sets apart the India-France relationship is this: geopolitics sans is without. So they believe in doing geopolitics without value judgments. Okay, without judging each other, and no pressure to align their positions. So therefore, not to pressurizing each other to be the part of the respective alliances or groups led by each other. Okay, so this is again a very good piece of article. This gives you the insight about that why India and this Indo-French relation is so robust, because we have built over time this relation over three pillars. First is non-interference in internal matters. Second is respecting each other's, this steadfast belief in strategic autonomy. So respecting each other's strategic autonomy, second pillar, and third and most important again is refusal to pull each other into its own coalitions and alliances. So these are the three main pillars of Indo-French relations. Very good article. Please do read it, revise it. Okay, next is related to the GM mustard or GM crops per se, genetically modified. What happens with this? Actually, genes of the crop is modified. So when I say genes modified, means somewhere you are modifying the DNA structure of the plant itself in order to make it hybrid or make it pest resistant, or in order to get more of yield, let us say more of produce from the same level of, let us say, this particular mustard. A push for GM mustard disregarding science, the law. So the title suggests somewhere the author is, the writer would be more or less criticizing this step, of course, disregarding science and the law. Let us see quickly. A determined battle by environmentalists in the Supreme Court of India against Delhi University genetically modified GM crops, GM herbicide tolerant, herbicide, mustard is all that stands between GM food and Indian farmers and consumers. GM crops are quite different from conventional varieties and hybrids, such as those developed by farmers, agricultural research institutions and companies. Biotechnologists, biotech, insert select genes at a random location in the DNA of a plant to develop a GM crop. That's what I said already. The insertion makes a GM crop express traits that it ordinarily would not. Okay? For instance, GM mustard has been altered to withstand the broad spectrum plant killer or herbicide, glufosinate. Okay, so glufosinate is a herbicide or a plant killer. So this GM has been, the changes done with this DNA of this GM crop in order to withstand this plant killer or the herbicide called glufosinate. This makes it easier to develop hybrid mustard seeds for higher yields, and farmers growing GM mustard can spray the herbicide to kill all plants except the mustard. That is the single most purpose of GM, this genes modification or modification in the DNA of the plant itself. So GM crops in India so far. Brief history. So remember, only GM crop in India which has been, which is there planted in India and that is producing India is only and only BT cotton. India has seen a robust debate on GM crops in last 2 decades. Environmentalists, scientists, politicians, farmers, consumers in the higher judiciary have asked probing questions about the safety, efficacy, and even the very necessity of GM food. Many have been alarmed by the experience with BT cotton. Fine. The first and only GM crop approved in the country. Remember, this is the first and only GM crop approved in the country which is being produced. Right? Long-term research suggests that BT is basically a gene. BT is Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a kind of gene. Has provided only fleeting benefits. Fleeting benefits are benefits lasting in short run or for short run. Fine. While enormously increasing their cost of cultivation and risk, on the other hand, some seed companies have profited handsomely from the expensive GM seeds. Because GM seeds cannot be produced by farmers, fine, in their own fields, so therefore they are dependent on the companies, on companies like Monsanto and all, so to supply them GM seeds. So of course these companies makes profits out of this and some profit impact. In the wake of the fires debates, two standing committees of the Parliament independently and comprehensively examined GM crops and food. The Supreme Court also appointed a technical expert committee in the public interest. Litigation filed separately by the non-government organization GM Campaign. So when PIL was filed public interest litigation in the Supreme Court, so Supreme Court appointed its own technical expert committee in the public interest to undergo and of course have a, let us say, a comprehensive study about the benefits and this harmful effects of GM crops. Thus, there are two reports concerning GM food from the highest legislative body in the country. One by the Standing Committee on Agriculture in 2012 during Manmohan Singh's government, and another by the Standing Committee on Science and Technology and Environment and Forest in 2017 during the current government, this government. Both committees included members of parliament from the ruling and opposition parties as well. Convergence in risk assessment. Working across an interval of 5 years, the two committees unanimously highlighted major weaknesses in the regulatory system and called for utmost caution before releasing GM food. So both the committees have, one of the committee, both are the study committees of the parliament, of course, and one was, one gave its report in the year 2012 in during the period of previous government, the UPA government, and then the next report, another standing committee report came in the year 2017. Both the committees have one commonalities, and that is they both highlighted major weaknesses in the regulatory system and called for utmost caution before releasing any GM food or let us say GM crops. The Committee on Science and Technology, Environment and Forest made a specific reference to GM mustard and asked the government to conduct a thorough, independent and transparent assessment of long-term biosafety, environmental risk and socio-economic impacts. So this is what the standing committee asked the government to take. 5 of the 6 tech members appointed by the Supreme Court itself also pointed to grave deficiency in the safety assessment of the GM crops in their report that was released in the year 2013. They found HT crops completely unsuitable in the Indian context and warned of serious harm to the environment, rural livelihoods and sustainable agriculture if they were released. So these 5 out of 6 tech members also, found the HT crops completely unsuitable in the Indian context and warned of serious harm to the environment by rural livelihood and sustainable agriculture if they were released. So you see, all of the 3 committees of this reports somewhere are not in favor of GM kind of food or crops. So this is a case of decisive convergence among noted scientists and the people elected representatives, because of course convergence, why convergence? Because you see even the standing committee comprises of both the member of parliament from both ruling party as well as the opposition benches. So of course that's why convergence, because all the 3 report committees has similar kind of stand on GM crops. Okay, that's why convergence. This is a compelling case as can be against releasing any HT crops and for comprehensively strengthening regulation before allowing GM food. Such convergence refutes the prejudice that critics of GM crops are against development. Given the overwhelming political and technical consensus, the government needs to approach the issue of HT crops transparently and robustly. Now this is a suggestion of what the government should do with an emphasis on precautions. Instead, the government is pushing ahead with GM mustard with a reckless disregard for both science and law. For instance, it has not placed the full biosafety dossier of GM mustard in the public domain, despite the provisions of the Right to Information Act and a declaration to this effect by the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee of the Environmental Ministry. Remember, this GEAC is the highest level decision-making body related to the GM crops in India, fine, and it comes under, of course, Ministry of Environment. Nor is it adequately responding to criticism from agricultural scientists that already available non-GM coming up with such steps over the suggestion provided by the respective scientists and the agriculture scientists especially. So in the entire paragraph, he has been basically criticizing the government for not following the rules on GM crops, misleading the court. In recent hearing, the Supreme Court could get around the growing evidence of long-term ecology and hazardous of HT crop. The government has argued that GM mustard should not be considered HT at all, since the objective for developing it was to improve yields. In fact, crop that can withstand herbicides is an HT crop. As far as the science of biotechnology and ecology go, there is no doubt that GM mustard is an HT crop, because an HT crop is any crop which can withstand herbicides. Right? Herbicides are basically the harmful or the plant killers basically. The government's argument is nothing but a red herring, designed perhaps to confuse the Supreme Court. It would be shocking if scientists involved in the developing GM mustard were to go along with misleading the court and public. The apparent disregard with which the government is steamrolling science-based concerns in opposition to GM mustard is horrifying. Instead of seriously engaging in the constitutional issues involving public health, environmental protection, agricultural livelihoods, the government is making a mockery of facts and logic before the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court allows GM mustard to go through, it will likely pave the way for the release of other HT crops such as cotton, rice and maize. The future of farming and India's food culture and heritage hangs in the balance. So in the entire article, he is basically underlining the, this reservation of the scientists with respect to the, of course, this HT or the GM crops, you can say. And he is saying that the government is somewhere misleading the court by arguing that this would result in increasing the overall yields of the crop, GM mustard especially, and disregarding the study committee reports. Study committee, of course, its own kind of, because when it moves the papers to the ruling party as well. Plus the tech established by the setup by the Supreme Court again, and further government is not providing sufficient information in the RTI Act provision and all. So this is what, because initially I said at the title suggests somewhere that is going to criticize, but whatever, there should be the constructive criticism as well. If something is right, it should be right as well, isn't it? Okay, authorities who misconstitute authority. Okay, now this is related to the ED. ED has been always in news. So authorities who misconstitute authority. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA. Now what is money laundering? Money laundering is basically when you conceal the origin of your money or funds. Fine? आप इस चीज को छुपाते हो कि आपने जो पैसा कमाया है, जो पैसा आपके पास कहाँ से originate हुआ? What is the source of that? So we have PMLA in order to check this money laundering. 2002, it was in 2002, vested a cadre of officers under the Directorate of Enforcement (DD) with powers to prevent money laundering, attach proceeds of the crime, and confiscate assets. We have another agency called Enforcement Directorate, Directorate of Enforcement. However, over the last few years, the ED has assumed power akin to that of policing agency and has often been accused of turning its gaze against political opponents of the Indian government. So you see, ED, of course, has become more powerful in recent times. These concerns were bolstered when the Indian government granted ED Director Sanjay Kumar Mishra third extension, which the Supreme Court was struck down. So, of course, earlier the provision was that the director could be appointed for minimum of 2 years. After that, the government gave 3 extensions, and the maximum time it could be, it could head this agency is 5 years. So therefore, government gave him extension for the, and this extension was meant to be the third extension in a row. So 3 years plus 2 years, 5 years. But somewhere Supreme Court struck down this third extension. ED is not the police. It has been repeatedly held that the PMLA is a sui generis legislation enacted to tackle money laundering through white-collar crimes. According to Section 3 of PMLA, the act of projecting or claiming proceeds of crime to be untainted property constitutes the offence of money laundering. Fine. So the proceeds of untainted property, illegal property, let us say, constitutes the offence of money laundering. Under the Schedule to PMLA, a number of offences under the Indian Penal Code (IPC) and other special statutes have been included. Statutes are basically laws which serves as a basis for the offence of money laundering. In other words, the existence of predicate offences sine qua non to charge someone of money laundering. So even predicate of, or let us say this existence of predicate offence, even this let us say defined or kind of offence, the sine qua non to charge someone of money laundering. So even you will be charged in this predicate matter as well. It is crucial to note that the investigation and prosecution of the predicate offences done typically by the CBI or the state police and not the ED. Section 50 of the PMLA provides power of a civil court to the ED authorities for summoning persons suspected of money laundering and recording statements. However, the Supreme Court held that ED authorities are not police officers. So here is the basic difference. Though ED has power of the civil court, but Supreme Court has said that ED officers are not the police officers. Fine. It observed Supreme Court observed this in a case called Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary versus Union of India, and this is the latest case of 2022 only. Then the process and discharge by the Section 50 of the PMLA is in the nature of an inquiry against the proceeds of crime and is not investigation. So it's an inquiry and not an investigation. There is a difference between the two. In strict sense of this, of the term for initiating prosecution, there are again other dissimilarities between ED authorities and the police. So what are the dissimilarities and the differences? When the police are required to register a FIR, first information report, for cognizable offences before conducting an investigation, ED authorities begin with research procedures and undertake their investigation for the purpose of gathering materials and tracing the proceeds of crime by issuing summons. So here you see the cases start with the FIR, but here you see the process start by summoning. Any statement made by an accused to the police is inadmissible as evidence in court, whereas the statement made to an ED authority is admissible. So any statement made by an accused to the police is inadmissible as evidence, right? But this is rather opposite in case of ED, fine? That whereas a statement made to an ED authority is admissible. A copy of the FIR is accessible to the accused, whereas the enforcement case information report is seldom available. So FIR copy is available, but not the information report of this enforcement ED. During the discussion on the PMLA bill in the Rajya Sabha in 2022, the erstwhile Union Minister of Finance, Jaswant Singh, said that he was not entrusted with the responsibility of acting as a policeman of the country or acting as a policeman on the economic morals of the country. He added, "It is not the intention of the government to have a piece of legislation which can be used as a disguise for political vendetta or political revenge taking." So this is what said by Jaswant Singh, the former Union Minister of Finance. These words were likely in reference to the power of arrest under Section 19 of the PMLA, which permits superior ED authorities to arrest any person whom they have reason to believe is guilty of money laundering based on the material in their possession. So this is how these are the sections actually which make ED a powerful agency, because this gives authority under Section 19 of the PMLA, gives this authority to the superior or the ED authorities to arrest any person, fine, whom they have reason to believe is the guilty of money laundering, fine, based on the material they are in possession. Combined with the stringent condition for grant of bail under Section 45 of the PMLA, the spectre of arrest by the ED is always real and present. So it is always a looming, this case or situation that where the people might be arrested. However, the use of the phrase "reason to believe" indicates that ED authorities must satisfy the sense of the need for arrest, and that such belief must pass the reasonableness test. As such, this should be the test that courts assessing the necessity of demand or supply but seldom do. So of course, this is kind of, you can say, arbitrary kind of decisions at times, because reasons to believe is subjective kind of thing, because it can vary from person to person as well. Over the last year or so, the ED has arrested ministers of Delhi, Government, Satyendra Jain, Manish Sisodia, former minister from the Shiv Sena, Nawab Malik, former principal secretary to Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, M. Shivasankar, deputy secretary to the Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel, Soumya Chaurasia, YSRCP MP Srinivasulu Reddy son, and all these number of persons have been arrested. And latest one is Tamil Nadu Minister V. Senthil Balaji. In spite of such high-profile arrests, the ED has only filed charge sheet after concluding investigation in only 1142 cases out of the 5906. Out of 6,000 almost cases, ED has charge sheeted only 1142 cases. Registered since 2005, it is apparent that the majority of the focus is unduly spent on effecting pre-trial arrests and not thereafter. It is reported that 85% of cases registered against politicians involve those belonging to the opposition parties. That's why opposition parties, always blame the government for playing the politics of vendetta and all, because you see that 85% of the cases registered are the politicians, and especially the politicians of the opposition parties. Now the role and purpose. Political malice aside, keeping politics aside, this basically raises another fundamental question about the role and purpose of the ED. When the police investigating petty offences are empowered to arrest and seek custody of the accused, the ED is meant to focus on recovering the proceeds of crime in order to redistribute the same to victims. It is not clear whether the ED has managed to do this or contra the Proceeds of Crime Act 2022. Another act we have. The analogous legislation in the UK, not in India, of course, in UK, almost entirely concentrates on confiscation of assets through dedicated civil proceedings. So he is saying that similar kind of act is there in UK, which focuses on the confiscation of the assets or whatever proceeds. Actually, they almost entirely concentrate on confiscation of the assets through dedicated civil proceedings and not exactly on the arrests, right? Making arrests. Unfortunately, of late, much of the ED's powers have been discharged in effecting pre-trial arrests, which used to be the prerogative of the police investigating the predicate offence. In the past, the CBI was used to impart fear among the political opponents. Now, he is saying that in the past, CBI was actually doing this, trying to impart fear among the political opponents. In the process, the agency received the condemnation of various courts and under the nickname Cage Parrot. Whether the ED will go down the same path or reorient its approach will entirely depend on the intervention of the country's constitutional courts. So he is advocating for the intervention of the constitutional courts, the Supreme Court or High Court, let us say. Okay. Moving to the next pages, let us see what's more important. So first, this topic has been in news from the last 2-3 days, and that is Indian evading trade with rupees. That is, RBI and government is focusing on the internationalization of rupee, and therefore we are trying to trade with the countries, majority or maximum countries in terms of rupee instead of dollars. Okay, so quickly see this. The Indian evading to trade with rupees. Okay, so you know that after France visit, our Prime Minister visited UAE as well. Fine, the next day. Okay. So what are the two MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, signed by the Reserve Bank of India and the Central Bank of UAE? How will trading in local currencies help? What are the benefits of linking UPI and its UAE counterpart instant payment platform? Will it make remittance flow easier? Remittances are basically flow the Indians who are residing in UAE, let us say working in UAE, and they send back some, the money to their Indian parents or family members. So of course we call them remittances. Fine. So will they make it easier? So there are lots of questions. Let us address one by one how this is going to be beneficial. Okay. So the story so far, during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to the UAE, the Reserve Bank of India and its Abu Dhabi headquarter counterpart, the Central Bank of UAE, signed 2 MOUs. While the first established a framework to promote the use of local currencies for cross-border transactions, the other was for interlinking payment system like UPI. Interlinking UPI. So 2 MOUs, first related to the trade in local currency, that is rupee and dirham. Dirham is a local currency of UAE, of course. And second is related to the interlinking of payment methods, such as the UPI, this UPI, of course, that is all we do, Google Pay and all, through the UPI, and its counterpart payment system of UAE. So interlinking the two, the Indian and UAE payment system. Unified payment interface, that is UPI. So how will local currency be promoted? The first of the two MOUs aims to establish a local currency settlement system, LCSS, to promote the use of rupee and dirham bilaterally. It will cover all current and permitted capital account transactions. So we have in economics a concept called BOP. In BOP we have two accounts, current account and capital account. So current account transactions are basically, let us say, covers balance of trade as well and services as well. So here we have merchandise, that is trading in goods and as well as trading in services as well. Fine. So this trading in goods and services comes under current account, and in capital account majorly we even this remittances comes under this as well, current account only. And capital account covers like FDI, FII, ECBs, external commercial borrowings, let us say grant given by some country, or even loans and all. Fine. So this majorly comes in the capital account, remember, and this trading and all comes under current account. So these are the two accounts mentioned here, cover all current and permitted capital account. So of course, it covers all current account, means trading in trading goods and services, but and alongside remittances as well, but covered permitted capital account transactions, not the whole of transactions taking place on the capital account, but only the permitted ones, the limited ones. Thus, the RBI is said to enable exporters and importers to send invoices and pay in their respective domestic currencies, which in turn would help the development of the INR, International Rupee, and Arab this AED, that is Abu Dhabi. Of course, this is a Abu Dhabi dirham, the local currencies of your UAE. Foreign exchange market. Of course, so we have a foreign exchange market where currency of one country is exchanged with the other. Fine. So this is how the rupee will be exchanged with the dirham instead of exchanging dollar with respect to dirham. It would also help promote investment and remittances between the two countries. Broadly, the arrangements would help optimize transaction costs and settlement time for the transactions, including for remittances from Indians residing in UAE. So why is it significant for exporters? The focus on denominating export contracts and invoices in the local currency helps avoid exchange rate risk, of course, because you see over the time we have noted that our Indian rupee is basically depreciating with respect to this your dollars, of course. So therefore, somewhere in order to de-risk this exchange mechanism or exchange rate, fine, or avoid this exchange rate related risk, countries prefer to trade in or transact in local currencies. Such as when a third currency is being used as a standard, which further facilitates the scope to discover competitive pricing. Moreover, it would also lead to enhanced avenues for cooperation among the banking system of the two countries, thereby contributing to the expansion of the trade and economic activity for both. The major items of export from India to the UAE include, now we have another additional information, remember UAE comes under top 3 in terms of this major trading partners. The major items of export from India to the UAE include mineral fuels, mineral oils and products, bituminous substances, mineral waxes, followed by pearls, precious stones, metals, electrical machineries, equipment, among other things. The major items imported by India are petroleum crude, of course, and petroleum-related products. India and UAE trade rose to $85 billion in 2022. Furthermore, the UAE was India's third largest trading partner, they said, and second largest export destination in financial year 2022-23, that is financial year 23. Fine. So these are very important facts as far as exam is concerned. UAE is today India's third largest trading partner, but it is second largest export destination after US. Conversely, India was the UAE's second largest trading partner. So to us, to India, UAE is the third largest trading partner, but for UAE, India is the second largest trading partner, of course, first to China. And what about the interlinking of payment system? The second of the two MOUs links India's unified payment interface UPI with its UAE counterpart instant payment platform IPP. This is alongside the linking of cards, which is that is RuPay card, RuPay debit card, I can see. And UAS switch or UAE switch. So UAE switch is a card like a RuPay debit card we have. So UAE is a UAE switch. Card switch is entail facilitating communication and transaction between different payment service providers. The agreement would also explore linking of payment messaging system of the two countries. The Apex banking regulator in India, that is RBI, said that the UPI and IPP linkage would enable users in either country to make fast, convenient, safe, and cost-effective cross-border fund transfers in their local currencies. As for card switches, the regulator stated that it will facilitate the mutual acceptance of domestic cards and processing of card transactions. Let us say this UAE switch card, debit card getting accepted for making payment in India by the UAE person, citizen visiting India, and similarly, our RuPay debit card being, getting accepted in UAE for making transactions by Indian citizens. So in this is relevant to 3.5 million. So how much population residing in UAE? 3.5 million. That is 35 lakh million resident Indians living in the UAE as of 2021 figure. How will this help now? One of the several issues with sending remittances back home, especially for low wage earners, is the high cost of transaction. So those out of 35 millions, 35 lakh, not millions, 3.5 millions Indians residing in UAE, when they send back, these remittances, especially among them, the low wage earners find it difficult with respect to the high cost of transactions. This may entail fee and exchange rate margins among other potential costs. In fact, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) in larger context had a stated in November 2022 report, because formal remittances involve high fixed costs and hence are expensive to provide. Low income individuals refrain from remitting or are incentivized to use cheaper informal alternatives. So even the IMF said the same, that low income individuals actually refrain from remitting or are incentivized to use cheaper informal alternatives. Right? It is stated it is challenging. It is challenges like these that the UPI and IPP linkage will try to address in real time. Basically, there will be this linkage would somewhere reduce this cost of transactions even for low-wage earners in sending back money to India. The development follows up on similar endeavors undertaken in the recent past. In March, NPCA, National Payment Corporation of India, finalized a collaboration with Singapore Pay Now for facilitating cross-border real-time money transfers. In fact, it was noted by officials at the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, that facilitating remittances will become 10% cheaper. So this is again, a valid point to write in the favor of what we have concluded with the UAE, because we have this evidence that Monetary Authority of Singapore has itself noted that facilitating remittances through this local currency, of course, in this mechanism of UPI would become 10% cheaper. Fine, would result in reduction in the cost of transaction by 10% almost. Furthermore, the NPCA had generally permitted non-resident accounts with international numbers to be onboarded into the UPI system, even those who are non-resident Indians. So even the non-resident accounts with international numbers will be onboarded into the UPI ecosystem. At the onset, it included users from 10 countries: Singapore, Australia, Canada, Oman, Qatar, the US, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Hong Kong. So remember this, the name of this country become very, very important. At times, UPSC asks question where it might be given the 4 names from these 10 names. We might be asked the future the following country is not a part of this mechanism. Okay. The World Bank noted in 2023 Migration and Development Brief that India experienced a 24.4% increase in remittances to $111 billion in 2022 on a year-over-year basis. This represented 3.3% of the GDP. So how much remittances we received from abroad? That is registered 24.4% of increase, and that in absolute figure stands at $111 billion, which is almost 3.3% of the Indian GDP. Fine, and this was noted in 2023 Migration and Development Brief by World Bank. This is a report by World Bank. It further stated that at present remittances inflows from GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which accounts for about 28% of the country's total remittances inflows, also this number one country in terms of this remittances. The second of remittances. High energy prices favor the employment and incomes of the less skilled Indian migrants in the GCC countries, where the GCC government's special measures to curb food price inflation shielded migrants remitting potential. The report argued about 36% of remittances were contributed to high skilled and largely high-tech Indian migrants in the US, UK, and Singapore. The report pointed out. So this has been bifurcation that 28% of these remittances of $111 million come from, of course, the GCC. Because is part of that, Gulf Cooperation Council countries, and 26% comes from the high skilled and large high-tech Indian migrants migrating to US, UK, and Singapore. So this has been the bifurcation. Again, a very important, this explainer from the explainer page, giving you the idea about the trading in local currency alongside the interlinking of the payment system of the two countries, plus the facts and figures, important facts and figures related to India and UAE trades, partnerships. Okay, moving to the next. Quickly let us have a glance at the miscellaneous facts important from the prelims in our point of view. Okay. Okay, mob attacks IPS officer in Manipur, 30 men to 1. So IPS officer was attacked in Manipur by mobs. SC College of recommends 4 advocates as SC judges. Okay. You see, we are discussing about ED and SC stage ED to liquor scam case. Fine order was passed in police challenging the reality of the proceedings initiated by ED against Chhattisgarh officials. Okay, you see Bilaspur goods train collision finds pilot pass signal in danger. This is another accident which took place in Bilaspur. Okay. Again, politics only. Okay. Government opens portal to refund small investors of Sahara. Okay, so government has finally opened portal to refund small investors of Sahara. Okay. Chandrayaan completes third orbit raising maneuver. So it has been a successful mission till now. Okay. India reports a record 93% DPT-3 immunization coverage in 2022 WHO. So again, a very good, a positive report by the WHO with respect to DPT. DPT is diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. So the coverage has increased. The third dose of diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus vaccines in India goes to an all-time high of 93%, surpassing the previous 91%. This has been, see the trend line, 93%. Earlier it went down, see from the trend line of 91%, this much, and then high. So India recorded 93% coverage for the third dose of diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus vaccine, and DTP-3 in 2022, surpassing pre-pandemic all-time high of 21%. This is a very good sign. Positive thing, of course. Now here's from the world page. Okay, so Pakistan gets another $606 million loan from China. Okay, all with their friends they are. Okay. From the businessman page, monsoons uneven March could fuel food inflation, caution economists. Of course, we are also expecting this year onsetting of El Nino impact as well. So, of course, this all will result into food inflation if there is, if our food production gets impacted negatively. So, showing concern despite a wetter July so far, lifting overall inflation above the average. The distribution has been erratic, affecting Kharif sowing. The widest fall was recorded in Arhar with the area shown more than 38% lower. July is crucial period of Kharif, showing as about 32% of rains occurring in the month. By July 15, the overall sown area of Kharif crops was 2% lower compared with the previous year, that is the last year 2022. So of course the overall production would to a great extent it will determine how the inflation takes its trend. Okay, not that important now. Startup funding slate. Okay, so startup funding slate 70% inflation financial year 2023. Okay. Finally, I will end on a letter this. This sports page. So almost we have discussed whatever important articles, editorials were there. Apart also with little facts and figures and miscellaneous kind of things. So that's it from my side. If you have any query, anything, you can put the same in the comment section. Until then, please do revise, take care, and stay tuned for tomorrow's analysis. Thank you.